even recognize it for what it truly is, while you wait for circumstances to shift, while you watch doors close in your face precisely when you need them most to open. Something far deeper is taking place beneath the surface of your visible struggle. This is not punishment. This is not evidence of your unworthiness. What you are experiencing is the invisible test that precedes every genuine abundance, the silent examination that determines not whether you will receive what you have asked for, but whether you can hold it once it arrives. The universe does not withhold to be cruel. It observes. It watches how you move through scarcity before it releases prosperity into your hands. Because the question is never simply about receiving, it is about sustaining. The difference between those who maintain abundance and those who lose it almost as quickly as it came lies in one fundamental capacity: the ability to remain whole when everything external suggests you are breaking apart. And so you must ask yourself a question that will change everything. What if what you have been calling bad luck is actually preparation? Carl Jung understood that transformation does not announce itself with trumpets and clear signs. It arrives disguised as crisis, as loss, as the collapse of what you thought you needed to survive. Within his framework of individuation, he recognized that the psyche must be dismantled before it can be reconstructed at a higher level of consciousness. You are not being punished. You are being refined. And this refinement, this alchemical process, begins with the confrontation of a wound so deep you may have spent your entire life running from it. There is a memory living in your body, an emotional imprint that whispers a terrible equation. If I have, I will lose. Prosperity does not feel like safety to you. It feels like the prelude to devastation. Somewhere in your past, perhaps in childhood, perhaps carried forward from lineages you never met, you learned that having more meant preparing for less. And so your nervous system, loyal and protective, has been quietly sabotaging every opportunity that comes too close to genuine abundance. Not because you are broken, but because a part of you believes that staying small keeps you safe. Jung spoke of the inner child, that fragment of consciousness that remains frozen at the age of your deepest wounding. Your inner child does not believe you deserve more than what you had then. If your childhood was marked by lack, by the constant anxiety of not enough, by watching your parents struggle and fail and barely survive, then that child inside you has built an entire identity around scarcity. To step into abundance would be to betray that child, to abandon the only reality they have ever known. And so you unconsciously pull back. You hesitate. You find reasons why this opportunity is not quite right, why that door should remain closed, why you should wait just a little longer. Consider how this plays out in the smallest moments of your daily life. You receive unexpected money and immediately feel a knot of anxiety in your stomach. Someone offers you help and you instinctively refuse, insisting you can manage alone. You stand at the edge of an opportunity that could change everything and find yourself inventing obstacles, creating complications that do not exist. This is not self-sabotage in the conventional sense. This is your psyche trying to maintain equilibrium with the only version of reality it has ever known. The nervous system resists not just change, but specifically the change from scarcity to abundance, because that shift feels like stepping off a cliff into empty air, and so you clutch at familiar suffering rather than risk the terrifying freedom of having enough. But there is something even more insidious than the fear of loss. There is the ancestral guilt of surpassing. When your parents lived their entire lives in struggle, when you watched them sacrifice and suffer and never arrive at ease, a part of you absorbed an unspoken law. To prosper would be to betray them. To succeed where they failed would be to diminish their pain, to suggest that their suffering was somehow unnecessary or avoidable. And so you carry their struggle in your body. You recreate their limitations. You sabotage yourself at the final moment, right before breakthrough, because succeeding feels like an act of violence against those you love most. Jung called this the complex, a constellation of emotionally charged associations that operate beneath conscious awareness, directing your choices, your reactions, your entire relationship with what is possible. The parental complex does not simply influence you, it inhabits you. And until you bring it into conscious examination, until you dare to ask whether you are living your life or theirs, you will continue to reproduce the same patterns of deprivation, the same cycles of almost but not quite, the same exhausting dance with scarcity. And then there is the deepest fear of all, the one that hides beneath every other anxiety. If I shine, I will be alone. Abundance in your unconscious mind is linked with isolation. You have watched or imagined or been warned that those who rise too high lose connection, that prosperity costs you love, that people who have more are somehow less human, less warm, less accessible, and so a part of you chooses lack, because lack is familiar, because struggle is a language your family understands, because suffering is the thread that still ties you to those who suffered before you. But here is what the universe is testing now, in this exact moment of your life. How do you respond when the external does not match the internal vision? Do you collapse into panic, into the frantic, scrambling energy of someone who believes they are running out of time? Or do you remain centered, rooted in a quiet knowing that what is yours will find you when you are ready to hold it? Because this is the real examination, not whether you can endure scarcity, but whether you can move through it with dignity and tact. The universe is not interested in your desperation. Desperation is a frequency of lack, and lack attracts more lack. When you beg, when you grasp, when you chase with the energy of someone who believes they will never have enough, you emit a vibration that repels the very thing you are seeking. This is not mystical nonsense. This is the basic mechanics of consciousness. Your emotional state is a magnetic field. Fear, panic, the conviction that you are perpetually on the edge of catastrophe. These states do not draw abundance toward you. They broadcast a signal: I am empty, I am broken, I am not enough. And the universe, neutral and responsive, mirrors that signal back to you. There is a difference between waiting with anxiety and waiting with quiet certainty. Anxiety is the belief that what you need might never come, that you must force and control and manipulate circumstances to survive. Certainty is the inner knowledge that you are being prepared, that the delays are not denials, that the closing of certain doors is the redirecting toward others you have not yet seen. The universe does not observe whether you are suffering. It observes whether you remain faithful to yourself even when everything external suggests you should abandon that faith. And this is where the death must occur. Not a physical death, but the death of the version of yourself that has only ever known how to fight, how to survive, how to operate from a place of chronic emergence, and you have built an entire identity around struggle. You know how to push through pain. You know how to function on empty. You know how to make something out of nothing, again and again, at great cost to your spirit. But abundance does not come to the one who only knows how to fight. It comes to the one who has learned how to receive. Jung spoke of the death and rebirth process that occurs during individuation, the psychological dismantling that must take place before a more integrated self can emerge. This is not metaphorical. You are dying. The person you have been, the strategies you have used, the survival mechanisms that got you this far, they are no longer sufficient for where you are going. And that is terrifying. Because if you are not the fighter, the survivor, the one who endures, then who are you? When the struggle ends, when the constant battle finally ceases, what identity remains? This is the void that precedes transformation, the space between who you were and who you are becoming. Jung called it the nigredo, the blackening. the stage of alchemical process where everything must be reduced to prima materia, to raw, unformed potential. You are in the dark. You do not know who you will be on the other side of this. You cannot see the new form taking shape. And yet the dissolution is necessary, because abundance does not arrive for the version of you that was built to survive scarcity. It arrives for the version of you that is being forged in this fire, the one who has learned to be still, to trust, to release the desperate grasping and simply be. There is a loneliness in this process that few speak about. The isolation that comes when you are no longer resonating with the frequency of your old life but have not yet fully entered the new one. You are between worlds, the people who knew you as the struggling one, the one who always needed help, the one who was safe because they were small. Those people may not recognize the version of you that is emerging, and you may not yet recognize yourself. This solitude is not a mistake. It is necessary. It is the space in which you reconstruct your internal foundation without the interference of external voices telling you who you should be. Now the test becomes more specific, more exacting. The universe is watching not what you say, but how you embody what you claim to want. Do you act like someone who is prosperous even when your bank account suggests otherwise? Do you treat yourself with the respect and care of someone who knows their value, even when external validation is absent? Or do you carry yourself like someone who is waiting for permission, waiting for proof, waiting for the abundance to arrive before you can finally relax into the truth of your worth? This is the contradiction that blocks everything, asking for abundance while vibrating scarcity. Speaking affirmations of prosperity while your body is tight with fear, while your thoughts circle endlessly around what you do not have, while your actions broadcast the message that you are not enough, that you must diminish yourself to be safe, that you must hoard and control and protect because loss is inevitable. The universe does not respond to your words, it responds to your frequency, and your frequency is determined not by what you say, but by what you truly believe in the quietest, most honest part of yourself. Watch how you move through a single day and you will see the truth of your frequency. Do you say yes to rest when your body asks for it, or do you push through exhaustion because stopping feels like failure? Do you allow yourself small pleasures, simple moments of beauty and ease, or do you deny yourself even these because you have not yet earned them? Do you speak to yourself with kindness, or does your internal dialogue sound like someone who believes they are fundamentally unworthy of care? These are not small things. These are the building blocks of your energetic signature, and abundance will not come to someone whose every choice reinforces the belief that they do not deserve comfort, safety, or joy. There comes a moment, a turning point that many miss because it is so subtle, when you stop begging and start simply being. You stop pleading with the universe to give you what you need, and you begin to embody the state of already having it. Not as pretense, not as desperate visualization, but as a deep cellular shift in how you perceive yourself. You are no longer trying to convince anyone, including yourself, of your worthiness. You simply know, and that knowing changes everything. Jung referred to this as the integration of the self, the moment when the ego stops its exhausting battle for control and surrenders to a deeper organizing principle within the psyche. This is not passivity, it is alignment. It is the recognition that you do not have to force, manipulate, or struggle your way into what is meant for you. You only have to become coherent. Your inner state must match your outer request. Your vibration must align with what you are calling in. And when that coherence is achieved, when there is no longer a split between what you want and who you are, the external world rearranges itself to reflect that inner unity. But before that coherence can be established, you must be emptied. This is the part of the process that feels like devastation. Everything you have been clinging to, every strategy that is no longer serving you, every false identity that was built on fear rather than truth, It all must be stripped away. You are being hollowed out, not to be destroyed, but to create space, because what you have asked for is vast, and the current container of your consciousness cannot hold it. You must be expanded from the inside. And expansion requires release. There is work happening beneath the surface that you cannot see while you look at your external circumstances and see only stagnation, only lack, only the evidence that nothing is changing. Your internal landscape is being completely reconstructed. Old neural pathways are being dissolved. New patterns of thought and belief are being formed. The protective mechanisms that once kept you safe but now keep you small are being gently, persistently dismantled. This is not visible. It does not show up on your bank statement or in your relationships or in any external marker of progress, and yet it is the most essential work you will ever do. Jung understood that the psyche does not transform overnight. It moves in spirals, in cycles of dissolution and reconstitution. Each turn of the spiral bringing you closer to wholeness. You are not failing. You are not stuck. You are in the necessary phase of internal reorganization that must precede any external shift. The pain you are feeling is not evidence that you are going backward. It is evidence that you are being refined. Your capacity to receive is being enlarged. Your ability to sustain what is coming is being strengthened. And that strengthening happens in the dark, in the waiting, in the moments when you feel most abandoned by the very forces you are counting on to save you. There will come a sign, subtle and easy to miss if you are not paying attention, that the test is nearing its end. It will not be a sudden influx of money or opportunity. It will be a strange, inexplicable peace that settles over you in the middle of the chaos. You will notice that you are no longer afraid in the same way. The circumstances have not changed, but your relationship to them has. What used to send you into panic now elicits a calm, steady breath. What used to feel like the end of the world now feels like simply another moment to move through. This is the signal. When you can be with scarcity without being consumed by it, when you can witness lack without collapsing into the identity of the one who lacks. You are approaching the threshold. You are becoming someone who can hold abundance without it destroying you, without it inflating your ego or distorting your relationships or pulling you away from your center. You are being prepared not just to receive, but to remain yourself in the receiving. And then, without fanfare, without the dramatic moment you might have been expecting, abundance begins to arrive. Not because you finally did the right ritual or said the right affirmation or manifested with enough intensity, but because you stopped chasing it with desperation. You stopped making it the condition for your peace. You stopped believing that your worth was contingent on external accumulation. You became complete within yourself, and that internal completeness created a magnetic field that naturally attracts what matches its frequency. True prosperity does not come to those who are grasping for it as proof of their value. It comes to those who have found their value independent of it. It comes to the one who no longer needs abundance to feel whole because they have discovered wholeness inside the experience of lack. And this is the paradox that unlocks everything. When you no longer need it to be different, it changes. When you stop resisting what is begins to shift into what could be. Jung spoke of synchronicity, the meaningful coincidence that occurs when the inner and outer worlds align. Abundance, when it finally arrives, will feel less like reward and more like recognition. It will feel like the universe saying, "You are ready now. You have passed through the fire. You have released the old skin. You have become someone who can hold this without losing yourself in it." And so here it is. The arrival will be quieter than you imagined. There will be no lightning bolt, no sudden reversal of fortune that announces itself with drama. Instead, you will begin to notice small shifts. An unexpected opportunity that feels aligned rather than forced. A conversation that opens a door you did not know existed. A resource that appears exactly when you need it, without you having to beg or manipulate or prove yourself worthy. And these shifts will feel natural, almost inevitable, as if they were always meant to happen this way, because they were. The universe was simply waiting for you to become the person who could receive them without losing your center, without abandoning the truth of who you are in the intoxication of finally having what you thought you lacked. The final marker of having passed the test is not the arrival of wealth or opportunity, though those will come. It is the arrival of a calm you did not know was possible. It is the ability to stand in the same external circumstances that once terrified you and feel nothing but steady presence. It is the maturity of not needing to prove anything to anyone, not even to yourself. You know who you are. You know your value, and that knowing is no longer dependent on what you have or do not have, on who sees you or does not see you, on whether the world acknowledges your worth or remains blind to it. You will look back on this time and recognize it for what it was. Not a period of punishment or abandonment, but a period of preparation. Every closed door was a redirection. Every loss was a clearing. Every moment of unbearable uncertainty was strengthening your capacity to trust. The universe was never withholding from you. It was protecting you from receiving before you were ready, from gaining what you were not yet able to sustain. And perhaps the deepest revelation of all is this: the abundance you were waiting for was already present. It was here, woven into the fabric of your life, visible only when you stopped looking through the lens of lack. The richness of simply being alive, the miracle of consciousness, the profound gift of this exact moment. It was all here. You just could not see it because you were measuring your life against an imagined future in which everything would finally be enough. But enough was always now. Abundance was always here. You were simply learning how to perceive it. So if you are in the test right now, if you are in the dark and uncertain space where nothing seems to be working and every door appears closed, know this: you are exactly where you need to be. The discomfort is not evidence of failure. It is evidence of transformation. You are being rebuilt from the inside out. You are being prepared to hold what you have asked for. And when the time comes, when the internal work is complete, the external will reflect that completion back to you with a speed and precision that will leave you breathless. Until then, practice being the person who has already received, not as performance, not as pretense, but as truth. Treat yourself with the reverence of someone who knows their worth. Move through your days with the dignity of someone who understands that their value is not determined by their bank account or their relationship status or any external measure of success. Be kind to the version of you that is still afraid, still grasping, still wondering if you will ever be enough. That part of you needs your compassion, not your judgment. And stay here with this inquiry, with this journey of unfolding. Subscribe to continue walking this path of inner transformation. Comment below and share what you are discovering in your own process of being tested, of being refined, of learning to hold what is coming. Because your story matters. Your transformation is not happening in isolation. It is part of a larger collective awakening, a movement toward wholeness that is occurring across countless individual lives. You are not alone in this, and the abundance you seek is not as far away as it seems. It is being forged right now in the fire of this very moment, in the crucible of your willingness to keep going even when you cannot yet see the end.